The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here's your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, back in studio after a week of college football preemption. Hey, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate you. We're going to have a special interview coming up a little bit later on the show. We'll tell you more about it a little bit later on. Plus, with the Xfinity Series playoffs underway, Matt and I are going to put ourselves out there and tell you who we think is going to claim the title at the end of the year. And then you can make fun of us when it comes not true. Silly season continues in Formula E. We're going to detail what is and what is not available in IndyCar now that their season is over as well. Got changes to road course rules in NASCAR. Got changes to a track in Formula One. An NHRA driver going back to school. And are they throwing dirt on Bristol again next year or not? All that and so much more coming up on this weekend's edition of CRN, the Championship Racing Network. Thank you for joining us. We'll get things rolling right after we take this short pit stop, and then we'll go green.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Are you tired?
Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, let's get into any racing action, shall we? I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers along with you. All of us in studio this week and back on all of the regular formats on our flagship station, which if you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see exactly what the flagship station is. And that's also a way to hear us in case sound maybe goes sideways for you. You can always tune in either on the website or on the app.
Yep.
There you go. Now you know. All right. By the way, Matt and I are set to go to Bristol. This will be a first for me. You've been to Bristol. You've seen racing at Bristol before. This will be a first for me. I have never seen a race live in Bristol. I've only seen it on television.
Been my fourth time.
Should be interesting. Can't
I've
wait.
never been either.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that, brother. We'll have to work on that.
Sure.
You got to work today anyway, so what's the difference? Let's see. What do we got here? Let's take a look at last weekend first, as we always do a race recap and look ahead to what's going on this weekend. Big question last Saturday was who was going to get that final playoff position for the Xfinity Series, and it didn't take long to see how things were going to go. Riley Earps kind of seemed snake-bitten from the get-go, while Parker Kligerman had a hot rod. Out front, John Hunter Nemechek, easy for me to say, claimed his sixth win of the year, seemed to have an easy day of it, beat Brandon Jones to the line for the win. Jones second, Sheldon Creed third, Parker Kligerman finished fourth. Austin Hill was fifth. Josh Berry, Brett Moffitt, Derek Kraus, Joe Graff Jr., Kaz Gralla filling out the top 10. Not just one, but two flat tires under green flag conditions throughout the course of the race put Earps down laps early. We'll detail it in the news. He did get back on the lead lap, strangely enough, but then suffered another flat tire under green flag conditions and went down again. He ended up finishing 2 laps down in 23rd. So your playoff contenders in seed order as they went into the playoffs technically last night. Teasing. John Hunter Nemechek is your 1 seed. Austin Hill, your regular season champion, your 2 seed. Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, Sam Mayer, Chandler Smith, Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton, Daniel Hemrick, and Parker Kligerman. And you say, well, this doesn't sound like the points the way that they wrapped up. Well, that's right. Because now all of a sudden we throw in all those little playoff bonus points and all that kind of stuff that came in and changes the seed order. Sunday's racing began out west. Indycar ran their season finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This really was more for the honor of getting the race win. The championship was all wrapped up. And while Scott Dixon couldn't challenge Alex Palou for the series title, he did rebound by cruising to his first ever win at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, claiming his 3rd win of the year and 56th of his storied career, and he doesn't appear to be done anytime too soon.
Nope.
Dixon beat Scott McLaughlin to the checkered flag by over 7 seconds. Alex Palou 10 seconds back at the finish. Willpower Callum Ilott with his best run of the season by far this season was 5th. And a nice run, by the way, for Uncos Hollinger Racing, who needed something like that as they're ready to head on into 2024. Christian Lundgaard, Alexander Rossi, rookie Marcus Armstrong, Pato Award Ryan Hunter-Ray, we'll get back to him, made up the top 10. Final standings in IndyCar, at least in the top 10. We're not going to go everybody. Alex Palou finishes with 656 points and again is your 2-time champion now, claiming his 2nd title in 3 years. Scott Dixon, 578 total. Scott McLaughlin, 488, 484 for Pato Award. And Joseph Newgarden, who with, 4 races left to go, was actually in 2nd place in the points, fades all the way to 5th with 479. Marcus Ericsson, 438. Willpower, 425. Christian Lundgaard, 390. Alexander Rossi, 375. Colton Herta rounds out the top 10 in points with 356. Your final rookie standings, Marcus Armstrong wins it, holding 214. Augustin Canapino with a strong season, but came up just short with 180. Still got the best name in the business going right now, but unfortunately Stingray Robb finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year points and is not guaranteed, by the way, to have that ride next year. 147. 129 for Benjamin Peterson, 35 for Linus Lundqvist. Yuri Vips gets 18 in his couple of starts. Tom Bloomquist holding 16, and R.C. Anderson, who only raced in the Indy 500, has 6. Now you know. Cup Series wrapped up a small schedule of racing last weekend in Kansas, and it appears, to me anyway, that if you got the number 45 on your car, you got more than a fair shot of winning at Kansas. Think about the last 4 races at the track, 3 of those times, with 3 different drivers, by the way. The 45 went to victory lane. 2 times last year. First Kurt Busch, and then Bubba Wallace took over that car. You might remember after Kurt Busch got injured and still is kind of dealing with some of the after effects of that. And then this year, Tyler Reddick gets the win. That's right. Tyler Reddick won last weekend. Fresh tires on a late race restart gives him the advantage he needed. He used it to best his boss at 23-11, not 23 by 1. Racing, Denny Hamlin, who settled for second. Eric Jones third. Then Kyle Larson and Joey Logano round out the top 5. Talk about Kyle Larson again here in a bit. Rest of your related to the Kyle Larson thing. Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, and Brad Keselowski with Alex Bowman finishing 10th. So 2 races into the Cup Series playoffs, 2 drivers locked into the next round there. Kyle Larson with his win at Darlington, Reddick with his win last weekend. We go all the way to the other end of the spectrum where Kevin Harvick is the guy in 12th. He's the guy on the bubble spot. He's 7 points up over John's favorite driver, Martin Truex Jr., had a bad start. Bad run at Darlington, bad run at Kansas, and now he's below the cut line by 7 points. Bubba Wallace, like Truex, suffering major damage from a blown tire at Kansas. He's 18 under. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 22 under the cutoff, and Michael McDowell, talk about a guy having a bad beginning to the playoffs. He's now 40 under the cutoff line. Let's face it, he needs a win.
Yep. He's in a win or go home situation tonight for sure.
Yeah, I mean, not only is he 40 points under the cutoff, he's got to jump over 3 other guys to be able to do it. And that's, no.
Borderline impossible.
Yeah. I mean, is it possible? Sure. You're going to need an awful lot of help there, Michael. This weekend's racing actually began on Thursday at the place Matt and I, as we said, are headed to after the show, Bristol Motor Speedway. They ran the UNOH 200 presented by Ohio Logistics. Came down to the end of the race where on lap 195 of 200, Corey Heim got under Christian Eckes, made that pass stick, and was able to lead the last few laps. It was Heim's 3rd win of the year, 5th win of his career. He's now locked into the championship round in the Truck Series. That's right. They're already down to their round of 8 there. So Corey Heim is the first one to lock himself in to be able to fight for the championship at Phoenix. Christian Eckes was 2nd, Grant Enfinger 3rd, Carson Hocevar 4th, Taylor Gray 5th, Rajah Caruth, Ben Rhodes, Chase Purdy, Nick Sanchez, Matt DiBenedetto fill out the top 10. At the other end of things, Corey Heim in the person who's on the bubble. After race 1 of the round of 8, Zane Smith, Ben Rhodes, Nick Sanchez, Ty Majeski, they're all under the cutoff line. Smith is 14 points under the cutoff line. Rhodes 19 under. Sanchez and Majeski are tied at 22 under. But you've got 2 more races to go. One of those, though, is at Talladega.
Mm-hmm.
So God only knows what's going to happen there.
Hey, yeah, Zane Smith's deal was, sorry, but it was self-inflicted.
I agree.
Because of a dumb move on the pit stop by leaving the right front tire sitting on the line,
Oops.
Therefore pitting out of the box.
Yeah.
That was self-inflicted.
Yeah, it was. And it was something not only Zane Smith should, maybe, I say Zane Smith should have known it, but the pit crew should have caught it at the same time.
They should have. And then, backing up to Christian Eckes, if I'm Christian Eckes, I fully got a right to be ticked off as well.
Sure.
Because when the pass got made by Heim, it was a perfectly timed pick move set by Tanner Gray, which hemmed him up and let Heim shoot right by. Sorry, but it was a perfectly timed pick move.
It's nice to have allies. Just saying.
Especially when it's your teammate.
Last night at Bristol, the Xfinity Series got in the race, the Food City 300. Matt, you got a quick recap for us?
Justin Allgaier took the win, getting himself locked into the next round automatically. You have Daniel Hemrick in 2nd, John Hunter Nemechek 3rd, Cole Custer 4th, Chandler Smith 5th, Ryan Sieg 6th, Trevor Baines 7th, Riley Herbst 8th, Sammy Smith 9th, Kaz Gralla rounded out the top 10, and some rookie named Dale Earnhardt Jr. that was in the threat for the win. Late in the race, had a mechanical issue. The car caught on fire and ended up finishing 30th.
Yeah, would have been interesting really to have seen if that car hadn't had that problem, what he might have been able to do. He did state ahead of time, though. He wanted to kind of make sure that he got out of the way of all the playoff drivers. And you think about all those drivers that you just talked about in the top 10, really in the top 5, where he was running up with them when he had to pull off because of that fire. They were all playoff drivers.
Yeah.
That would have been tiptoeing right there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the top 11.
Yeah. As you noted, Justin Allgaier moving on to the second round. He's locked in. Those on the hot seat now, Jeb Burton, Sam Mayer, Parker Kligerman, Josh Berry. Burton is 4 under the cutoff. Mayer's 14 under. It's getting worse. Parker Kligerman 22 down, and Josh Berry 24 under. It was the first segment of the race, 50 laps, especially when you think about the Xfinity Series, remarkably clean. First time ever that in the Xfinity Series at Bristol, they didn't have a caution during the first stage.
Yeah,
so very clean.
That was a head scratcher.
Then you had a couple of incidents where teammates got into each other. First, you had three of the four junior motorsports cars getting into each other and taking each other out. And then later on, Sheldon Creed gets into his RCR teammate, Austin Hill, takes Austin Hill out. And that's why you have the situation that we got there. Again, Burton 4 under, Mayer 14 under, Kligerman 22 down, Berry 24 down. All who are chasing Sheldon Creed, who is sitting on the bubble spot right now. So we're going to have to find out how that goes. But again, they got a couple of more races before they got to worry about that.
Yeah, Josh Berry had a right front go down, and it just ended up taking out 3 of the 4 junior motorsports cars.
Yeah, and you want to talk about a guy who he was ridiculously apologetic, Josh Berry. You know, Sam Mayer was ticked off. I understand why Sam Mayer was ticked off, but for him to say he better have had a tire go down, why don't you wait until you get all the facts, and then you'll know whether a tire went down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stop making veiled threats in case it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Rest of this weekend schedule begins tonight as we got a jet up there. Cup Series going to run the Bass Pro Shops night race. It'll air on USA and PRN Radio, and this is a new time, by the way, for those of you that are curious. It was supposed to begin an hour later. But because of possible weather being in the area, especially once you get to about midnight or so, they want to make sure everybody's as safe as possible and can get out of the track if they're leaving. And if they're camping on the grounds there at Bristol, they got a chance to lock everything down. So with the possible weather, they moved everything up to 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Radio really doesn't affect it a whole lot because they'll do the pre-race just like they always do. For television, they were talking about this a lot last night. Because it's on USA, they already had everything scheduled up. So what you're effectively going to get is instead of about an hour of a pre-race show, you're going to get 5 minutes of a pre-race show on USA.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to go racing. Not the worst thing in the world. Sunday morning, U.S. time, Formula One begins an Asian swing. It starts with the Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. Runs on a modified version. We'll detail that during Formula One news. In the Marina Bay Street Course. In this, guys, it'll be a 19-turn, 3-mile-long course. The race will air on ESPN starting just before 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time. And then you got race number 1 in the Camping World Drag Racing Series Chase for the Championship. It's the Pep Boys NHRA Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway in Reading, Pennsylvania. That'll be live on Fox right after the early NFL game, starting 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, or whenever NFL coverage wraps up. So all the series that are still in season either have run, Truck Series and Xfinity, or will run this weekend, the rest of them. So there you go. Let's do a quick review. Again, IndyCar has settled their titles and all that kind of stuff. So let's do a quick review here because we got an interview coming up in a little bit, and that's going to take up, I don't think, quite 10 minutes, Producer John? Something like that?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, something like that. But that's going to eat into the time that we're going to have to be able to get all these news and bits of information out to you. So we're going to go ahead and get into it right now. Aftermath of the IndyCar series shows that a second title in 3 years for Alex Palou. We talked about that. The Rookie of the Year, Marcus Armstrong. Even though they only won 5 of the 17 races this year, Chevrolet wins their 8th manufacturer's title for that company in the dozen years since they came back to the series. They were consistent enough all year. Plus, there was something else that kind of went along with it. We'll get back to that in a minute. But let's get back to Palou. Much like in Formula One, IndyCar drivers have the ability, upon winning the championship, to be able to switch their car number to the number 1 the very next year. Some Formula One drivers like Max Verstappen have, others like Lewis Hamilton chose not to. Alex Palou, who did not do it when he won it in 2021, said he's now considering it, but he still hasn't made up his mind. His Chip Ganassi racing car has the number 10. He didn't change it again after the 2021 title, but he said he got to thinking about it after telling IndyCar he was going to stick with the number 10 a couple of years ago. Said, quote, honestly, I love the number 10.
Good number.
Kind of like that guy right there does.
Good number.
It was my first number when I started racing, and that's why I wanted to keep it after 2021. But then during last year, 2022, I just kind of thought about it. I was like, oh, man, we should have raced with the number 1. So I'm going to push for it. I'll have a lot of discussions with Chip. I'll come in with Be the One. I think that's great. Ganassi hasn't commented. Polo's primary sponsor, though, the American Legion, they're also behind the idea of using the number 1. So here's the question. You're in the same situation. You used the number 10 while you were a driver. Mm-hmm. And when you are able to get back into your own car again, I'm sure it'll have the number 10 on the side again.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the opportunity after winning a championship, would you switch for that 1 year to the number 1, or would you stay with the 10?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know, because your number gives you your identity.
Sure.
1 is just like, I look at it as like just a gold star.
I could see that.
You got your gold star. Hey, here's your gold star for the year for 2024. Here's number 1. Use it at your disposal. But your number gives you your identity. A lot of people have ran that other gold star identity in the past. Probably, even though I said I don't know, I would probably end up going with the decision of sticking with my identity.
I got you.
And staying with it.
Okay. I think it is one of those questions that comes about. I think for the first time, I would probably agree with him. I'd want to stick with my number and be able to say, hey, this is the number that I won the championship with. But if I were lucky enough to win a second championship, I might be in Alex Palou's situation a little more at that point in time and say, you know what? Now I get to do it a second time.
What the heck?
And I might go ahead and do it for the second time.
Yeah.
We'll continue with the review of IndyCar next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. The web. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. We're talking a little bit of the review of the 2023 IndyCar season, which officially wrapped up last weekend as they ran at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Again, Scott Dixon, your winner. Talking a little bit of Alex Palou. Talking about maybe using the number 1, which you can do by IndyCar rules, switching for the 1 year while you're the defending champion. While that's still trying to be figured out, he said that if that doesn't happen, that's not really the main situation he's looking to try to deal with anyway. He wants to win that crown jewel race in addition to defending his series title. He said after the events of Sunday, quote, if we could just get the Indy 500 next year, that would be already a really good year, obviously. We just need to continue working like we've been doing. I think we have chances if we put ourselves again during the Indy 500 to be up there in the top 4, top 5 on the last restarts. We're going to be in a good place. So, yeah, hopefully we can win a little bit more next year. Speaking of winning, talked about the fact that this weekend they're in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Qualifying's already underway in Formula One, so we want to kind of keep updated on this here because things change here in a pretty rapid-fire manner. So before they get into Q2, let's talk about what happened in Q1 and well, there's a couple of surprises. Maybe not necessarily in those who did not make it to Q2.
Yeah, the ones that are out in Q1 is Valtteri Bottas, Oscar Piastri, Logan Sargent, Zhou Guanyu, and Lance Stroll, who crashed in the final corner of the last lap of qualifying.
Of those, I think Lance Stroll might be the biggest surprise because of the crash.
Right, but in the top 5, did anyone on their bingo cards have in this order, AlphaTauri, Red Bull, Haas, AlphaTauri, Haas in the top 5? I'm going to say no.
I would not have guessed that at all.
Because you have...
I might have guessed one of the Haas's into Q2, but both Haas's in the top 5?
Along with both AlphaTauri.
I knew.
You have Yuki Tsunoda sitting P1 right now. Sergio Perez P2, Nico Hulkenberg P3, Liam Lawson P4,
Whoa.
and Kevin Magnussen P5. You have George Russell sitting P6. He is human after all.
I guess.
Max Verstappen P9 and Lewis Hamilton P14.
Okay. We'll see how that changes as we go along.
Yeah.
Back to IndyCar news where Team Penske driver Scott McLaughlin and his teammate Will Power claiming 2nd and 4th, respectively, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That somewhat surprising 5th place finish that I talked about by Juncos Hollinger Racing's Callum Ilott. Those are what helped propel Chevrolet to the title. They win it by 12 points over Honda. And one of the bigger reasons why actually has to do with longevity. Anytime an engine is changed for that particular race, that car does not claim manufacturer's points for their engine maker, be it Honda or Chevrolet. Honda, while winning more races, did have more engine failures over the course of the season, or more times where Honda teams had to change out the engine before they made it to the necessary, by rules, 2,000-mile mark. And again, that meant cannot apply points for the next week. Chevrolet ends up winning the manufacturer's title. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2023 season is officially over. So how are the teams set for 2024? Well, most of the teams that we've been detailing here all along have pretty much made all their moves. They're already prepared. But there are still questions. In the Chevrolet camp, A.J. Foyt. We noted on the show over the last couple of weeks they haven't announced anything for 2024, but we know that Benjamin Peterson's on a multi-year deal, so it seems likely he'll be back, but we've seen stranger things happen. Santino Ferrucci has performed well for the team. He's outperformed Benjamin Peterson by a pretty good bit, actually. So it would seem that he might be back, but you got to remember this. Their alliance now with Team Penske officially kicks in, and it might change things up a little bit. Ferrucci does not yet have a deal. Team Penske themselves, they're fine. They got Scott McLaughlin, they got Joseph Newgarden, they got Will Power. They're all coming back. It's the consistency that Team Penske is known for. But Team Penske, in looking to help out A.J. Foyt Racing, may also be looking down at, say, Indy Next, and seeing who's the next hot driver, potentially, and saying, you know what? You don't have that 14 car, which is what Santino Ferrucci was driving. You don't have it locked down. We got this kid. Now it becomes the question of exactly how much pull does Team Penske have when it comes to making ultimate decisions within AJ Foyt Racing.
If I'm pulling up a driver, I'm going to USF Pro 2000 and I'm pulling Miles Rowe.
Who, by the way, is already moving up with Andretti Autosport into Indy next.
I would be pulling Miles Rowe.
It'd be an interesting pull.
Here's your check.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting pull. I get it, but we'll have to see how things go. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting situation to find out exactly how much influence Team Penske has over AJ Foyt Racing. A technical alliance is one thing. Sitting there and saying, hey, listen, you need to use this driver, AJ Foyt might bristle at that. Larry Foyt, I don't know. But AJ probably would bristle at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Probably.
We'll find out. Time will tell. Over at Arrow McLaren, after Alex Palou soap opera thing got settled, at least as far as knowing what car he's going to be in next year, they seem ready to roll into 2024. David Malukas is coming in. He'll join a lineup that will feature Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi. Over at Ed Carpenter Racing, Renus VK is going to be back. Carpenter himself will likely run the oval track races himself, but who's going to be in the 20 car at the road and street courses along with him? Well, that's ugly. We'll show that here in just a second. Who's going to drive the 20 at the road and street courses? We don't know. Ryan Hunter-Ray finished out the season in that role, but he likely isn't returning to that seat, and Ed Carpenter Racing has not commented yet as to who it is that he might be going with. There are options, but let's just say right now this is one seat that we know is open, at least for the road and street course races. Juncos Hollinger Racing has Callum Ilott coming back. The second car a little less certain. Augustin Canapino says he wants to come back. Ricardo Juncos wants him back as well, but they need sponsorship to make that happen. They will probably soldier on into 2024 with being a two-car operation. I would say probably Augustin Canapino will probably be that driver, because even if they go to some Argentinian or some other South American corporation,
right,
somebody's going to step up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a problem.
No doubt.
Over to the Honda teams, Andretti Global. We know this. They've added 2022 Indy 500 winner Marcus Ericsson. He joins the returning drivers, Colton Herta and Kyle Kirkwood. There's some thought they might bring in an next driver for the fourth full-time car if they decide to drop Romain Grosjean, but that has yet to be decided. We also know Marco Andretti not going to be full-time again next year. He will probably be in the Indy 500 in a one-race deal, but probably that will be his only IndyCar race next year. Marco Andretti is pretty much said he's all but done. So Romain Grosjean is the question here in that particular car. Chip Ganassi Racing is probably one of the most solid teams out there other than Team Penske. Going from 2023 to 2024, they keep the champion, Alex Palou. They still have the six-time champion, Scott Dixon, and they've got the 2023 Rookie of the Year, Marcus Armstrong, who will go full-time in 2024. That leaves Takuma Sato, who drove the oval track races in place of Armstrong, looking for a ride. Will he get it? Go talk to Ed Carpenter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Meyer Shank Racing going to have an all-new look for 2024. Elio Castroneves is only going to run the Indy 500. Maybe a couple of other races, but I'm not going to count on it because he's pretty convinced he's going to be doing SRX again next year, and that 6-week schedule, that'll interfere with a couple of them. Simon Pagenaud, unfortunately, after the Mid-Ohio sports car crash where he's still suffering after effects, he appears to be out. And the reason why is because they've announced 2 brand new drivers, and they're only a 2-car team. Tom Bloomquist and Felix Rosenquist.
The land of the Quist.
Yeah. My question is this. Should Simon Pagenaud recover sufficiently enough? Do they put a 3rd car out there for him?
I don't see why they can't.
I don't see why they shouldn't.
Yeah. I don't see why they can't.
Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, they're solid with 2 cars. Graham Rahal and Christian Lundgaard are back. The question becomes who's in the 3rd car. Seems the 2-race tryout for Yuri Vips to end the 2023 season probably will turn into a 2024 ride, but it hasn't been announced yet. They state that they'll probably have a 4th car for the Indy 500, but that's just a 1-race deal. Biggest changes coming at Dale Coyne Racing. We know David Malukas is gone. We already talked about that. 2023 rookie Stingray Robb, again, while having the best name going in IndyCar right now, let's face it, he didn't do enough behind the wheel really to impress. So we know that the team needs at least one new driver. They might need two, depending on what they decide ultimately to do with Stingray Robb. At this time, we also, as I mentioned, don't know the future of Romain Grosjean. Grosjean began his racing career in IndyCar with Dale Coyne Racing. Maybe he returns. Don't know. One thing IndyCar is not worried about, TV partners. NBC and IndyCar are enjoying boom times. It's the third straight year that the races on NBC or for NBC Sports, remember it also includes USA and Peacock, have seen an uptick in overall ratings. And for the Peacock streaming service as well, the biggest numbers to date so far. One race was solely on Peacock, but for the other 16 races that appeared either on NBC or USA, half of them had viewership of at least 1 million people. That's the same number of races as 2022, but the average overall number of viewers was up 4% over 2022's numbers to just shy of 1.5 million per race on NBC. Obviously lower on USA. As for the Indy 500, NBC reported viewership was the highest for that race since 2008. As of about 13% of all televisions in the United States were tuned into the series' biggest race. And remember, it started at 11 o'clock in the morning when you're talking Central Time. Eastern Time, it started at noon. Mm-hmm. Came in at just under 5 million viewers total. So for the season, not surprisingly, the biggest market for IndyCar, Indianapolis. Kind of like after Q1, the rest of the top five, though, might surprise you a little bit. Would it surprise you to know that the second biggest market, television market for IndyCar was Louisville, Kentucky?
Huh. Yeah.
All right. If that surprises you, how about this? Number 3 market in the country, right in the heart of NASCAR country, Greenville, South Carolina. Then you got Knoxville, Tennessee in there, and the 5th biggest was Fort Myers, Florida. We're beginning to like our IndyCar a lot more.
A little.
Now comes the fun part, negotiating a new media rights deal. There's not a pressing need, but it's kind of like NASCAR. NASCAR knows that after 2024, you're done with the current TV deal. After 2024, IndyCar's done with their current TV deal. So they're already wanting to work on it. Mark Miles, the CEO of Penske Entertainment, talked to Racer.com this week, said this, quote, "We have momentum. We have people who understand that objectively our metrics are positive and improving, and there are multiple platforms interested in our rights. So that's a great combination and a good place to be as we explore the market for 2025. I didn't go fully into detail on this, but the way he's talking, he seems to be intimating that there's more than one property that are interested and have contacted IndyCar about getting in on the negotiating deal.
What it sounds like.
One of the ones that he specifically mentioned is a network that producer John is quite familiar with.
Now, by property, you mean networks?
Yes.
i.e. CW.
i.e. CW. Mark Miles specifically mentioned the CW network. Not necessarily as in, hey, they've called us and they want to negotiate, but in that they have become players. This year they got the ACC, running college football. They picked up from HBO and then Showtime inside the NFL. 2025, they start running the Xfinity series, and they're the sole provider of the Xfinity series. That means they get practice, races, qualifying, all of that stuff, all for Xfinity, all to themselves.
Yep.
Xfinity has not had a Sunday race all year long, if I remember correctly.
They have not.
And when does IndyCar race the vast majority of their races?
That would be on Sunday.
So CW has a hole that they might be willing to fill. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying it's possible.
Let's
so
look back.
NBC's no guarantee here.
Look back a few years to another budding network trying to make it with the big dogs.
Uh-huh.
A little network called Fox.
Might have heard of them. They came in, and for the first several years of their existence, the biggest thing that they had going for them was this little weird animated program called The Simpsons.
Oh!
You might have heard of it. And then all of a sudden, the NFL deals start coming up for negotiation, and CBS loses the NFC rights to Fox.
Can you believe that? Now we're talking about CW basically doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So watch out, boys and girls. CW might just be a player. We noted after the 2022 season came to an end, IndyCar has a new preseason testing schedule. Usually they do all their preseason testing at Sebring Raceway in Florida, but before this season, the 2023 season, they instead went out to California. They tested at a place called the Thermal Club. It's a high-end, privately owned course that the public can pay a pretty good amount of money to race on. They're going to host IndyCar again for 2024 preseason testing. And then they're back for an all-star race. Yeah, IndyCar has decided to do an all-star race, kind of like NASCAR is doing. The winner guaranteed to claim $1 million.
All right, Matt.
All right, John.
You've become a star. Let's go.
Most all-star events, you think Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, they happen in the middle of the season. The NFL's Pro Bowl happens at the end of the year, but nobody pays any attention to it anyway the week before the Super Bowl because it's basically flag football. NASCAR's all-star race happens a little more than 3 months after the season really gets rolling, so as the weather gets warmer, but not quite halfway into the year. IndyCar is planning on holding their 2024 All-Star Race / $1 Million Challenge on March 24th. Not May, March, with the season barely having gotten underway. The official 2024 season schedule has not been revealed, but think about it this way. When the 2023 season got started at St. Petersburg, it happened on the weekend of March 3rd through the 5th. So 2 weeks after you get the season started, you're going to do the All-Star race?
All-stars from the previous
That's
season.
really about all you can say is,
Uh-huh. I keep looking at when they're ending their schedule. Mid-September, early September, really, is when they ended it this year. It's not like we're going into a cold snap by mid-September or even into early to mid-October. Some places are cooling off, sure. But are we getting to the point where we're absolutely freezing our butts off? No. So why not hold what is a non-points cash grab event at the end of the year?
really, really, really good question. But hey, if we want to go and we want to take a cross-country drive, it's just a little hop, skip, and a jump right off of Interstate 10, right outside of Santa Ana, California, baby.
I've seen pictures of that place. It is a beautiful place. There's no doubt about it. I guess we'll find out.
Hey,
Again,
one of us hit the lottery, go out there and buy a house and do CRN live from the patio, baby.
John, get on that. Much like NASCAR's event, no points awarded. The event format going to be like any other race that IndyCar holds. We know there's going to be a qualifying session. Then you got 2 heat races. The top 6 from each heat go to advance to the main. The winner earns $1 million, racing amongst 12 drivers. We'll talk about some of the rest of the schedule. We know one more bit about the 2024 schedule. We'll tell you about it next, right here, as we continue on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
We are back, and okay, so we know a couple of things about the 2024 schedule. Not everything's been locked in, and the reason why is because they're still working with Toronto. Okay, so we're expecting maybe end of the month, probably, I'll say before Halloween, we should have the 2024 IndyCar schedule. We know when the All-Star race is going to happen. We also know when the Grand Prix of Long Beach, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, will be coming in. They announced their place on the 2024 schedule, confirmed for the weekend of April 19th through the 21st. They're going to run once again on the same weekend as the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship using the same street course. So we know that'll be after the All-Star race. So St. Petersburg, maybe one more race before the All-Star race, and then Long Beach, Barber, and then head to Indy. If we're doing the educated guess thing. We'll see. One more note here, two more notes, I guess I should say. Andretti Global confirmed that one of their longest partnerships has actually come to an end. DHL confirmed to the organization that the season finale at Laguna Seca was their last race as a sponsor of the number 28 Racer and for Andretti Autosport. A DHL spokesperson talked to Racer.com this week, said, quote, on behalf of DHL Express, I can confirm that DHL will not be renewing our long-standing partnership with Andretti Autosport, now officially Andretti Global, following the season. Our organization is immensely grateful for the mutually beneficial and successful partnership over the last 12 years, during which we achieved significant milestones together. It's a partnership that netted the 2022 IndyCar, or 2012, I should say, IndyCar title with Ryan Hunter-Reay, and the same driver claiming the 2014 Indy 500, multiple race wins. But the last one happened in 2018 with Ryan Hunter-Reay. Romain Grosjean took over that car. He's been the driver with the sponsorship over the last couple of years. And while he's got 3 podium finishes this year, he hasn't claimed to win. And then there's also the question of what might happen for Indy Next driver and Andretti development driver, if you will, Jamie Chadwick. You know, the 3-time champion of the erstwhile W Series. DHL was working with Andretti and sponsoring that ride as well. She claimed 12th in the final points, but with them pulling out totally from Andretti Autosport, they don't have a sponsor for Jamie Chadwick either.
Seems like Andretti ticked off DHL.
We shall find out what they choose to do. Let's see. We'll get into a couple of pictures here as well. And as promised, we got an interview coming up. But first things first, let's get you through the Cup Series news. Late in the race last Sunday, during a round of pit stops, Kyle Larson bumped into teammate Chase Elliott. Elliott didn't take it too kindly, side slammed Larson in return. Now, video of it, which we don't have, showed that Larson was forced into Elliott by Brad Keselowski coming in out of his pit stall. But Elliott didn't know it at that time. Larson, who knew the full story, said that the two talked briefly at the end of the race, said it was nothing but words from the obviously frustrated Elliott. Said, quote, I understand why he's mad or was mad in the moment. I hope when he sees the replay, he understands. I didn't have the space, or not much. It was just inches. You can see the two of them just before Elliott slams into the door of Larson on the apron around turns 1 and 2, courtesy of YouTube on CRN Live on YouTube, or you will be able to see it here in just a moment. I mean, he did. He showed really no mercy there. And
he popped him.
Not included in that picture is Brad Keselowski, who dropped well behind the two of them. You can see the 11 car, Denny Hamlin, out there in front. But yeah, it was one of those deals where Larson came out and he was going to be able to go side by side with his teammate Elliott as they were going down the pit stall. But then as they got by Brad Keselowski, all of a sudden Brad starts to come out, forcing Kyle over into Elliott. It was one of those kind of strange deals.
Yeah,
when he was asked about it on Tuesday on Sirius XM Satellite NASCAR Radio, Elliott said, quote, there's a lot that goes on. We obviously ran into each other on pit road. I didn't have the full picture of what was going on, so I was frustrated. Stuff like that happens for sure, but at the end of the day, I'll certainly take the blame for my frustration on that front. The good news is that he and I can have a conversation like adults, and it's a non-issue. The bad news is it's not a non-issue for all of y'all and everybody that wants to talk about it, but there's nothing to talk about. Now you know. We've talked about it. There's nothing more to talk about.
And now you have the rest of the story.
Thank you, Paul Harvey. This weekend, the 10 car going to have a little bit of a different look on the back half of it. The front half is going to look quite similar, the Smithfield sponsorship that we're used to. But the back half will feature IHOP, the International House of Pancakes. It's the first of a 3-race cooperative deal, putting the restaurant on the car, which also gives fans a chance to win if you're loyal. Loyal to what? It seems that IHOP has a loyalty club.
Pancakes.
Who knew that? Members of the IHOP Loyalty Club will get a pan coin. Okay. Added to their club benefits, which can be redeemed for free pancakes, presuming that the winning driver, which, by the way, does not have to be Eric Almirola, does a pancake. Their take on what we would usually call a donut. The other 2 races have yet to be announced, thanks to Stuart Haas Racing for the look of the car that you see on CRN Live on YouTube. Normally, I wouldn't announce just something that's kind of different like that, but because you might be a member of the Loyalty Club, figured we'd go ahead and mention it. Trackhouse Racing has made a signing that'll come as a surprise to exactly no one.
Not a soul.
Since both the team and the driver have been talking about it since he won the Chicago Street Course race, the team officially has signed Shane Van Gisbergen to what they're terming a development deal. So no, he will not be full-time in the Cup Series in 2024. What this will do is put SVG, as we're calling him, into selected races in all 3 top levels of NASCAR, Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks next year. We don't know the exact schedule. Trackhouse hasn't talked about it yet. Maybe by the end of the year, but Trackhouse has more important things to worry about right now with Ross Chastain in the playoffs. Justin Marks, Trackhouse's primary owner, said, quote, "This is going to be a tremendous challenge for Shane, but he is a tremendous driver, as we've all seen. Next year will be about getting him acclimated to oval track racing, super speedways, 1.5-mile tracks, and pretty much everything else that he's never experienced in his racing career. It's obviously going to be a learning process, but we think Shane will perform quite well. The team has, again, not said what the plans for the rookie will be in 2025 yet. And for this rookie, SVG will be 34 by the time he sets foot in the car with the rookie stripes on it next year."
The kicker to me is going to be this. With the way that the not speed weeks anymore, but the 5 days of speed in Daytona.
Sure.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
The way the schedule structures out, the ARCA race is after the truck race. Okay. I know that nobody's going to give him the approval to run the truck race without having to turn a lap on a super speedway.
You wouldn't think.
So my little gut is telling me, my gut is telling me you're probably going to see him in a double header on Saturday of the opening weekend. He will run the ARCA race, get the immediate approval, and then turn right around and run the super speedway Xfinity race. Unless they approve him in the ARCA test in January, which is a possibility because I have seen approvals be done through simple test sessions.
Sure. And I'll say this. How likely do you see that as being?
Through the test or through the ARCA race?
Through the test.
Better than 50.
Okay. And I tend to agree with you only because of one thing. Number one, he's already won a race in the Cup Series. Granted, it was on a street course. I get it. But still, he's won a race there. And number two, he's 34 years old and is a champion driver from other series. I think it does allow NASCAR to lower the bar some.
As flexibility, yes.
Yeah. If I chose to do it, if Trackhouse Racing were crazy enough to sign me to said development deal with no experience whatsoever, yeah, NASCAR should hold the higher bar to someone like me. But to SVG, I could see them lowering the bar and allowing him to jump over it with a good test in the ARCA.
Put him, certify him in the ARCA test. Let him run the ARCA race and the truck race.
Sure.
Double your experience.
And then let him get into the Xfinity race if he qualifies.
Justin, for the love of humanity, put him in a car that actually won't be 5 laps down by lap 3, which we know that's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
So, back to what I'm saying, though. I'll just go ahead and just fast forward to next April. Let's call it next April.
Go for it.
Please, somebody, I want to walk through the tunnel with Gisbergen when he walks in the tunnel at Talladega.
Sure.
Because I want to hear him say, in the best Australian accent possible, mother of.
Yeah. As here comes Talladega.
Yeah.
Friday, Cowlick Racing announced that they were going to fill the number 31 Camaro in 2024 with Daniel Hemrick. Justin Haley announced earlier this year he was going to be leaving the 31 and going to Rick Ware Racing. But the team waited to announce his replacement in the 31 car, and while Hemrick has that to look forward to, his work isn't done. He is obviously competing for the 2023 Xfinity Series title for Cowlick, and if it hadn't been for an untimely block on his part and older tires from Justin Allgaier, he might have had a chance to win last night. But anyway, in his time in Cup, and remember, he's had a stint in Cup once before. He's had 47 total starts. He's got a top 5. He's got a pole position. He's got 3 top 10s, and he's led 22 total laps. A lot of people on social media, and I get it, social media people tend to be those who overreact to everything. I didn't react to it at all. I actually think it's a pretty solid signing. It might not be the most spectacular of signings, but I think it's a solid signing on the part of Cowlick Racing to bring him up into the Cup Series. All those people that are sitting there saying, oh, well, I hope you're ready to finish last and have a whole lot of wrecked cars. Based on what? What do you base that on? 47 Cup Series starts, top 5, 3 top 10s, led 22 laps, claimed a pole position. Seems like he's actually shown the ability to have speed in his car. And we know that Cowlick Racing builds good cars and puts good cars with speed out on the track.
Yep.
Before you comment on social media, and I know that this will fall on a whole lot of deaf ears, but before you comment on social media, could you actually do a little research and educate yourself?
There's actually, it's actually what we like to call the keyboard warriors.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that, when they get behind a keyboard, whether it be behind an actual laptop computer or a phone, whether it be through social media or even a simple text message, they like to be a little bit bigger than what they actually are in real life. And then when you see them eye to eye and you knock them down to size about 2 notches, the attitude changes just like that.
And it should. Here comes the rumor mill again. I don't care for rumors like this, but considering it came from a trusted source, we'll mention it to you and see whether it comes about. Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily reported Wednesday, quote, Live Fast has declined comment on chatter that it could sell its charter soon, with Spire Motorsports seen as a suitor. He added that Spire might then lease the charter to Trackhouse Racing to allow Zane Smith to move up to Cup, and it might allow him actually to split a car between Smith and SVG. We'll find out about all that. We'll see whether the rumor is actually true. Who knows?
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
We are back indeed, and this is a move I don't care for. But apparently the majority of the drivers and crew chiefs wanted it, and that is they're going to be breaking out the yellow again at the end of the stages on road course racing. NASCAR said at the beginning of the 2023 season that they would allow all road course races to run without an actual stage break. In other words, throwing out a yellow or a green and white checkered flag, if you will, and where the stage would have ended, and just let the race go green and still awarding the bonus points. But with the one road course race left, and that's at the Roval in Charlotte, NASCAR Competition Committee met on Tuesday of this week and decided to make the move back to the yellow flags at the stage breaks and allowing them to come down pit road. Elton Sawyer, the VP of Competition, added that the restart zone is also going to be moved. We'll get to that here in a second. I want to get back to this yellow thing. What was the problem?
With?
Allowing the road course races to just continue to go green and go ahead and award the points at the same time?
Probably because now the road course races have gotten so strung out and no action on the track whatsoever.
Which we noted.
Probably
only one
is the reason
caution
why.
flag at the last two road course races, which were Watkins Glen and Indianapolis.
One natural flag,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
So it's probably why,
So they're trying to manufacture excitement.
pretty much.
Elton Sawyer, the VP of Competition, added that the restart zone at the Roval is going to be moved back to the final chicane before the start-finish line, whereas before, when they started the race and in all in-race restarts, it took place on the oval. For those of you that are on CRN Live on YouTube, you're about to see this here, and you'll kind of get a better idea. This right here, we're talking about the dog leg. You're off of turn 4, and you're about to hit the dog leg of the tri-oval. But when it's the Roval, you've got that little chicane that they threw in there just to add a couple of more kinks to it and kind of slow the field down a little bit more, give you another passing zone. Well, before, they had been using the oval part of the track to start the race and all in-race restarts. Now that chicane comes into play every single time, including at the beginning of the race. I don't really have a problem with that.
I do,
Okay. By all means.
because you're creating an area to where there's going to be some tore up race cars.
Oh, sure.
on restarts.
Oh, yeah. I know. But if that's what NASCAR is willing to do, and they're willing, and the teams are willing to allow the bent sheet metal to actually take place, that's on you. You know, me personally, I'm less of a fan of the actual stage breaks than them doing this. This right here, whatever. If that's really what you want to do and you think that these guys can actually do it without beating and banging into each other, fine, go for it. Whatever. Another move made on Tuesday, NASCAR officially reinstated Noah Gragson to active status. Don't know what he did. It's not like there's a road to recovery for liking a meme on social media. But Gragson was suspended by NASCAR indefinitely August the 5th because he liked a meme on social media that, I'll admit, it wasn't tasteful, but I don't think it was suspension worthy. It certainly wasn't. When I showed it to people on this show, it didn't seem to be suspension worthy to anybody on this show.
No. He had to undergo a sensitivity program.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get your certificate?
All right. On that note,
Yeah.
and it
Like
ain't
anger management training?
and it ain't no secret who, but I have had a car owner and a driver in the top 3 series say before you obtain your license, you have to go through a sensitivity course.
It's like anger management training. Following NASCAR's suspension of Noah Gragson way back when in August, Legacy MC mirrored the move, and it prompted Gragson to ask to be released from his contract. They granted it, leaving Gragson as a free agent and clearing the path for the soon-to-be Toyota team to allow Toyota Racing Development's favored son, John Hunter Nemechek, to take over the 42 car next year. That we reported on that just last week on the show. So what happens to John Hunter Nemechek, we don't know. We know that he is set to run, I think, in a Cars late model race here fairly soon.
No, it's actually a super late model race at where is it?
For some reason, I had it in my head it was a Cars late model race.
No,
But,
it's a super late model race driving for
Okay.
Rhett Jones.
Rhett Jones. Yeah, I knew that. But, he's putting his foot back into the racing world slowly but surely. Gragson's a talented kid, but he's a kid. You got to realize that he's still a kid, as witnessed by he and Ross Chastain getting into the confrontation earlier on this year where Ross Chastain punched Noah Gragson.
Toledo,
okay. Pretty squarely. Yeah, he's still a kid. He's going to do things. And here's the thing. We all do them. They're kind of stupid. I laugh at things that are sometimes a little bit considered of less taste. I'll be real blunt with you right here. I just turned 55 not that long ago. To me, 1A and 1B of the funniest movies of all time are both by Mel Brooks. Young Frankenstein, and Blazing Saddles. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever seen Blazing Saddles, let's face it, it's not the most tasteful of comedies on the planet. But it was made 50 years ago. It was a different time back then. And you also got to remember something else. That was written, in part, by Richard Pryor in order to shine a very bright spotlight on the stupidity of a lot of crazy people in the world. Not only then, but now. But no, is it the most tasteful movie on the planet? No, it's not, but I still think it's funny as all God get out. Noah Gragson liked a meme and had to undergo sensitivity training. Okay. Whatever. Yeah? You have something, or are we going to go to this interview?
Go to the interview, because I need you to brace yourself on this one.
Oh, okay. So we might have two things when we come back from this interview.
Oh, yeah.
Coming back from the interview, I'll just let you know this right now. We will have an update on what's going on in Formula One qualifying, because by that point in time, Q2 should be done.
Q2 is over. Timing and scoring has got to cycle through.
Yeah, we'll let all that cycle through. But as promised, earlier this week, I've got another job that I do during the week, Monday through Friday. John's got another job he does during the week, Monday through Friday. We just talked about it, as a matter of fact. He works for a Birmingham TV station that happens to have CW as their network. I have a job as a producer, a morning show producer on a radio station out of the Birmingham area, and had the chance to do an interview with a noted Cup Series driver. The morning show team actually did the introduction on this whole thing. John, I'll let you take it away.
I've long believed that Steve's Turn is sort of our version of show and tell, and today for Steve's Turn, he brought a friend.
He sure did. Man, he wasn't playing around either.
Why would I? I mean, if you're gonna bring in a friend and
Hey,
show them
Steve,
off, you might as well
Impressive.
go big.
You
Bring
get
in
an
a
A.
big friend.
You get an A+ on this
Bring in
one.
a good friend.
I'm trying.
Go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
It's Steve's
you
turn.
do hit that button right
guess
over
who's on the phone with us?
Yeah, driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang for Team Penske, and your defending Cup Series champion, ladies and gentlemen, Joey Logano. Hello, Joey. How are you?
Hi, Joey.
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thank you very much. Currently sitting 11th in the playoff standings and going to Bristol. What do you think about Bristol? A lot of people are kind of, iffy when it comes to Bristol. You seem to do pretty well there, but do you kind of dread it, or are you looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to Bristol. I enjoy it. I was listening to your commercial there a second ago about work trucks. I got my F-150. I'm ready to go up there and make it happen in Bristol. So I think, it's one of those racetracks that's so challenging, half mile, high bank, so fast. A lot of things happen at a really, really quick rate. So to me, I love it because there's nothing like winning at Bristol. You get that stadium environment. The people are so close. The fans are yelling and screaming the whole time. It's just cool. So obviously, as a competitor, you get excited about going places like that.
Absolutely. And a couple of weeks from now, you're going to be in our particular area when you come to Talladega. And kind of the same question there, because there are drivers that love super speedways and there are other drivers that just absolutely dread it. Almost the exact opposite of Bristol. Coming to Talladega, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, that might be the one that makes us all nervous. That's the one. Same thing. Fans are awesome there, and it's a really cool environment. But for a driver in that situation, especially in the playoffs, where all the things that can happen, that one will make you a little bit nervous. So, really hoping to have a strong race before that puts us in a better place. But it's 1 week at a time right now. We'll think about that as we get closer.
I gotcha. Earlier on this year, I mean, you've been running with Roger Penske for a long time, and you've made 2 titles with him and everything. Let me start with your thoughts about going and running for the captain. What is the captain like when it comes to working for and driving for him?
Oh, you better win.
No pressure.
You're expected to win races, and I love that. I expect myself to win races, and that's the only reason why I'm here. I mean, I'm not really here for fun. I'm here to win, and Roger has the same approach there, and that's why I think our partnerships work so well over the years. You see Roger be able to win not only on the racetrack but in all his businesses as well. So I'm proud to be a part of something like that. And my dad taught me one thing when I was young, and it made a lot of sense. He said, "You can't fly like an eagle if you're working with a bunch of turkeys." And so you want to surround yourself with eagles, is what I'm saying here.
That's my problem. I get it now. Thank you, Joey. You've explained it.
Turkeys in your life. Gotta get rid of those.
Yes.
We'll leave it to Richard for that one, wasn't it? And during that time, I mean, you seemed to kind of flourish over it. Earlier on this morning, we gave a trivia question that said when you came in, you came in under Joe Gibbs Racing, and you took over the number 20, and things didn't kind of seem to gel, but you really seemed to take off when you got over to Team Penske to the point you've got over 30 wins. You got those 2 championships. You've been named to the NASCAR 75 greatest drivers of all time. What kind of an honor was that when you got that call?
Obviously, a dream come true, right? As a kid, all you want to do is, for me at least, I wanted to be a race car driver, and I wanted to be around long enough and to win some championships. And I remember as a kid, I read at the time. It was the 50 greatest drivers at the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. And I had that book when I was a kid. And so to think that, you're involved in the next 25 best, and you fast forward that, 25 years from that point, that was a pretty neat honor to be a part of, as you can imagine. If that's your dream and that's the only thing you worked for your whole life, that's a pretty neat accomplishment.
But where on the list did you fall? Because if you're in the top 10, I'm impressed. If you're number 74, not so much. I'm just saying.
Right. So I asked the same question, and I don't know. And there wasn't an answer, because that was the first thing I asked. It's okay, I made the top 25. That's great. Well, where was I? Did I barely make the cut, or where was I at?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal.
Burning question.
Somebody told me, which I feel like a bad sign.
No, the reason for this is that the list goes like this: 1, Richard Petty; 2 through 75. All the other players, everybody else. It doesn't matter.
Is tied.
They're all tied for second place. That's the way it works. You're number 2. Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but
it's a nice thought, though. I get the funny feeling it probably has something to do with the first 3 being some form of Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson, and then everybody else.
It would make a lot of sense that the most championships would probably be up there, and then I think there's still quite a few in front of me at the moment, but I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I still have some making up to do.
Well, and on that note, I mean, being in the playoffs, again, you're 11th out of 12, so not exactly as comfortable as I think you would like to be, but you're already in fairly elite company. You're one of only 16 drivers to have multiple Cup Series championships. To win a third would really start to put you in much more elite company at that point in time.
Well, absolutely. It would be great to be any more championships. It's just the goal, right? When the season starts every year, we go to the media day and what's your goal for the season? Win the championship. Isn't that the biggest thing you can win at the end of the day? Yeah. So that is the goal. That's all you work for. And so that's the the chance that we have this year again by being in the playoffs. You said it. We're not in the prettiest of places right now, but we get through Bristol and we react back to where we were, and we can go at it again. So we just got to take it one race at a time, get through this one, and then fire away into the next round.
Talking about Joey Logano, Team Penske driver, number 22, Shell Pennzoil Ford, and you're now the elder statesman over there. When Brad Keselowski left, you became that. You got a couple of young guns up in there. I'm fairly sure that they come to you and ask for a whole lot of advice. How's the relationship between the three of you?
Thanks for calling me the old guy.
Well, it's got to happen sooner or later, right?
I don't know. When did this happen? I don't understand, but no, it's been neat. I mean, Blaney's really stepped up as well as a great teammate for the last couple of years. To really help me filling the departure of Brad. And, I think between, the three of us with Hendrick, we've done a good job of trying to lead our team and work together and win some races. Obviously, last year the championship was great. And this year, obviously, we got a little bit of work to do. We're not where we need to be yet, but we're working hard and progressing and moving forward right now.
That's great. Joey, I wish you the best of luck this weekend and as you go forward into the playoffs. And who knows, maybe at the end of the year you got that third title that you're hoisting up in Phoenix.
You never know. That would be pretty great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Thank you, Joey. We appreciate the time. Joey Logano,
There you
driver
go.
of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang for Team Penske.
A lot of fun to be able to talk to him at that point in time, and who knows, maybe we'll have a couple of more interviews before we get to Talladega, or maybe before the end of the year. Who knows?
Maybe so.
I got on a pretty nice list. I'll just put it to you that way. I'm happy to be on that list to be able to do some of these interviews. Real quick before we go to break here, we've noted the fact that Q1 ended and had some surprising drivers that were up there inside the top 10. Now with Q2 done, do the surprises continue, or are we back to what we've been seeing all year long?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Red Bull Racing is human after all.
Oh my gosh.
They are human.
Wait. Let me borrow some of the Southeastern Conversation sports talk here. Is the dynasty over?
No.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez missed Q3. So
Both of them missing Q3 is an eye-opener. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. So going on to Q3, you've got Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Kevin Magnussen, Lando Norris, Nico Hulkenberg, Charles Leclerc, Liam Lawson, Esteban Ocon, George Russell, and Lewis Hamilton.
If you thought that was your top 10 going into Q3, I need to go with you to a state that has a lottery. Because, dang.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that.
No.
So, I will ask this question before we go to break.
Sure.
And you can roll the music anytime you want, John. Is this Max Verstappen going, I need a challenge? Or is he really having a problem at Singapore?
I will confirm option A is my choice.
I'm still thinking it's Max Verstappen's race to lose. I don't care if he's starting 14th or not. When we come back, we'll go from Cup Series to Xfinity Series. We got trucks as well, and we got some NASCAR news. We got NHRA, we got Formula One, we got Formula E. Stick around.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Wow, show's flying by. Good grief. And we're into the Xfinity Series news here. And we noted during the recap, if you missed that about an hour ago, you've missed a lot. Parker Kligerman jumping over Riley Herbst made the playoffs on points while Herbst had trouble early, finished the race several laps down. On a restart during stage 2, Herbst got into Kligerman's left rear corner, I hope inadvertently, cut a tire down, caused damage to the 98 he ultimately did not really recover from. The team lost 2 laps, changing the tires and patching the damage as best they could. Now, I'll give them credit. They patched it well. He was able to get back on the lead lap from being 2 laps down. But then he suffered another flat right front tire, easy for me to say. And at that point in time, he was done. The final playoff spots was finished when he had to pit under green and lost more laps. So now Riley Herbst gets to go play spoiler while Parker Kligerman started off at Bristol probably not as well as he would have liked. This year, we haven't heard much about it, this whole unsecured lug nut situation being a problem. Every once in a while, you get one loose one, and they'll fine him $5,000. It's $5,000 for every lug nut in the Xfinity Series. And that's pretty much it. So we really don't detail it because it's just a $5,000 fine. So why are we mentioning it now? It has to be something bigger that came out of Kansas, right? Right. Richard Childress Racing crew chief Jeff Stankiewicz has been fined and suspended. The number 2 Chevy Camaro, driven by Sheldon Creed, had 2 loose lug nuts at the end of the race at Kansas. He's fined $10,000 and had to sit out last night at Bristol, where Sam Bowers filled in as the crew chief and did an admirable job. Junior Motorsports locking down another one of their drivers. They signed Sam Mayer to contract extension to continue driving the number 1 Camaro. It marks his 3rd season in the car. Wisconsin native is in the playoffs for the 2nd straight year with 2 wins, both of them on road courses, Road America and Watkins Glen. Not so lucky last night, but then again, something not of his own doing when Josh Berry got into him after he cut down a tire. Mayer's been with Junior Motorsports since 2018, then in their late model division. Made his way up to the Xfinity Series in 2021 on a part-time deal, then went full-time in 2022. 2 wins, again, both this year. 21 top 5, 40 top 10 finishes to his credit going into last night, which did not help. Junior Motorsports also locked down the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro. They re-signed Brandon Jones. That'll keep him in the car. It keeps the Menards Home Improvement stores on the car as well as the primary sponsor. Menards been a fixture in NASCAR since 2003. That's right, 20 years now. Active in Cup, Trucks, and Xfinity. Jones missed the playoffs this season, has their sights set on a win before the season's over. We know Justin Allgaier is back after the race last night in Victory Lane. Well, no, it wasn't in Victory Lane. Technically, it was trackside.
Front stretch, yeah.
In the post-race interview, trackside, he announced, it hasn't been officially announced yet, but I have re-signed for next year. So 3 of the 4 Xfinity Series rides at Junior Motorsports have the same driver going into next year. The one change will be the 8 car. We know this. Josh Berry is already out, having signed with Stewart Haas Racing to go drive the 4 next year, taking over that car from Kevin Harvick. So I would ask you the question, do you have a leader in the clubhouse for the 8 car next year?
Well, there are chirps.
Yeah?
Let's call it that.
Okay.
Because of their previous tie to him, that possibly Sammy Smith might be moving over, bringing the sponsorship with Pilot, Flying J, and TMC Transportation, excuse me.
Which would be a return, basically, for all those, because Michael Lynette had those when he was with the 1 car.
And the name Riley Herbst was brought up as well.
Interesting to note. We shall see.
Yeah.
Derek Kraus set to team with Cowlick Racing to drive 3 more Bristol Xfinity Series or 3 more Xfinity Series events before the end of the year. The first was last night at Bristol. Following up with that, it'll be at Homestead, Miami, and then he'll run the season finale at Phoenix in the team's number 11 Chevy Camaro. Going into last night, had 5 starts for Cowlick this year. The best finish was 8th, which he did twice. What's Krause's situation? I mean, is he really in line to get a full-time Xfinity Series ride maybe as soon as next year? I mean, we already know that they're going to have an open Xfinity Series car. They're promoting...
I'm not going to say it's out of the question.
Okay. Has he done enough in your mind?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
But as much sim work and how much time that he works with the Cowlick team doing development stuff for races, not only for Xfinity but for Cup.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's out of the question, but if it was me, I'm going to pull the reins back a little bit, get him developed a little bit more.
Give him one more year of kind of running, 7 to 10 races or something like that?
Yeah, but from the looks of it, Allmendinger's going to go back to Xfinity.
Which blows my mind.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
it's absolutely
he's got enough.
mind-boggling.
He's got enough pull over there or enough weight at call. He can pretty much call his shot, do what he wants to, and just have fun.
I don't know why they couldn't keep him in Cup. It just doesn't make any sense.
With Hemrick going up, if AJ goes back, does AJ go to the 10 or the 11? 16
Question.
cars sewed up. Chandler Smith, he'll be back next year.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say AJ goes to the 10, and they'll probably pull Krause up and put him in the 11.
Okay. And then we just got to figure out what's going to happen with the 16 car in Cup.
Yeah.
Congratulations out to Jeremy Clements and his wife Courtney. They've announced they are expecting their first child, expected January of next year. Craftsman Truck Series news: Thor Sport Racing has changed the crew chiefs of Ben Rhodes again. This time the team has swapped crew chiefs between Rhodes and Haley Deegan. Rhodes in Bristol had a familiar voice in his ear. His name, Rich Lushes. He led Rhodes and the team to the 2021 Truck Series title. He moves over to Rhodes, moving from Rhodes to Deegan will be Brian Ross. Now, this is a comfortable move, basically, for Ben Rhodes. This puts a voice that he's familiar with in his ear. We already know they work together well.
Yeah.
Brian Ross going to Haley Deegan, does that help in any way, shape, or form? Because Haley Deegan has shown that she has speed, but she has yet to show me that she can finish.
You want the short answer or the long answer?
John, what kind of time frame are we looking at here?
Short answer, no.
We got all the time in the world.
Do we?
Steve.
Yeah. No, we got to be off the air at 10. I don't know what. I don't hate Haley Deegan. Okay. But again, I'm calling it as I see it. She's shown the ability and has speed. She's shown the ability to run up front and do what needs to be done. She just hasn't shown me the ability to be able to finish off a complete race.
Yep. Exactly.
She's going to need a mentor somewhere down the line, and I'm not finding that yet at Thor Sport Racing.
As long as it isn't DP, she'll be okay.
Yeah, I understand that. But I'm talking about a crew chief. I'm talking about a crew chief that can also be the mentor.
All right. I will say this, that I have heard directly out of one of her former crew chief's mouths.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know where I heard this at.
Mm.
The reason she has such a hard time is because she has no ability to give correct feedback on what the truck is doing.
Huh.
So she's like a Cole Trickle?
She's like Cole Trickle, exactly. I was thinking exactly that. That goes back to the whole idea of getting the proper crew chief that mentors her so that they can develop a way of communicating.
She has a very hard time with feedback. They can put initially unload and be lightning quick, but as the racetrack changes and the truck changes,
She can't
she
figure
can't
out
give
how
the
to.
right feedback.
I got you.
That's why there's been this revolving door of crew chiefs.
Yeah. Somebody needs to sit down with her and figure out how to make that line of communication to the point where it's easier for her to deal with and easier for the crew chief to deal with. Both sides. Craftsman Truck Series driver Ryan Vargas has begun a very busy couple of weeks. A lot of travel involved. So he ran the Truck Series race at Bristol on Thursday night. Vargas is now headed to Germany. Yep, he's going to run next weekend's NASCAR Whelen Euro Series race at a road course whose name I'm not even going to attempt to butcher at this time. He's going to run the number 30 Chevrolet Camaro in a cooperative effort between Team FJ and 3F Racing, the latter starting to get into U.S. NASCAR competition on part-time levels. Vargas said of the opportunity, quote, "My dream has always been to be able to go overseas, drive a race car, whether it be GT racing or NASCAR Euro. I've always had a fascination with racing overseas, so when the opportunity arose for this doubleheader to happen, I jumped on it as quickly as I could." So, yeah, he's running more than one race over there. Well, he better not get too used to it, because after he runs in Germany next weekend, He's got to come back to the United States because he's got to get into his truck and race it in our backyard at Talladega. Total number of miles on this round trip from Bristol to Germany and Germany to Talladega, with no other stops in between, about 9,250 miles.
At the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Outback Steakhouse was at one time a major fixture in NASCAR, but they dropped out to turn their advertising dollars to other avenues. But if you were paying attention on Thursday in the Truck Series race at Bristol, to the back of the field, you saw that they were back for one race anyway. They sponsored a kid by the name of Stephen Malazzi.
They were out back for sure.
Who?
They were out back for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have us. Stephen Malazzi is a budding racer who supplements his income by working for an Outback Steakhouse. He's been racing the past 13 years, while for the past 3 years also being a server at one of their locations. He explained the connection, quote, "Since I was 8 years old, Outback was the go-to post-race restaurant for me and my family, win or lose. So I couldn't be prouder of this partnership with the Bloomin' Onion wrap on my truck," which you'll be able to see on CRN Live on YouTube here in a moment. I'm excited to get the community fired up at events that we're hosting together, thanks to AM Racing for that particular look at the truck. It was a sharp-looking truck, if only it got more TV time. John Vingo, the GVP of Outback Operations at Outback Steakhouse, said of the opportunity to sponsor Malazzi, quote, "It was an easy yes when we were presented with the opportunity to support Stephen, an Outbacker who shares our passion and lives and our core values. Bringing people together, creating a sense of belonging is what Outback's principles were founded on and what we're all about today." Again, he drove the number 22 for AM Racing, and you can see it right there on CRN Live on YouTube.
He got TV time all right, but the TV
when
time
he was being lapped.
When he was being lapped, had the bottom pinned up and caused 3 wide messes out of turn 2 and turn 4.
Yeah. Stephen, you got some more learning to do there, pal. Just saying. It's an understatement, but at the same time.
To quote the VP, it was an easy yes when we were presented the opportunity because you was probably having to stroke a check that was about that big to go on that truck.
Give us just enough money to put the sponsor on the car.
I mean,
to borrow Days of Thunder twice in the same segment. One other bit of NASCAR news. While we still don't have the official 2024 NASCAR schedules for any of the top 3 series, be it Cup, Xfinity, or Truck, some things are being revealed bit by bit by bit, including this fact. And I got to admit, I'm pretty happy about this, with all due respect. Next spring, when the series goes to Bristol, where Matt and I will be later on tonight, it won't be covered in dirt. It will remain as it was and is this weekend, concrete. In other words, returning to what's familiar. Track General Manager Jerry Caldwell got on SiriusXM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel just yesterday, as we are airing live on Saturday, and said this, quote, "I think NASCAR's done a great job the past several years of trying new things. I think as a sport, we've really embraced that. People love our sport. They love tradition, but they also love trying new things, and they love returning to some old ways, whether that's North Wilkesboro or whether it's dirt, or maybe it's the road course / street course in Chicago. All those things are great things, you know. Sometimes you do that for a little while, then you change things up. You go back to the way it was, and that's what we're doing here, so we're thrilled to be able to do that. I think the dirt was great, but I think it's time for us to go back to the concrete and see what these drivers can do on concrete twice a year. I got no problem putting these drivers on dirt. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I got no problem putting the NASCAR drivers, I don't care what series, what division, however you want to put it, put them on dirt. Put them on a dedicated dirt track.
I was going to say, but put them on a dirt track. Don't cover a track with dirt, just put on dirt.
All these tracks that either NASCAR owns or SMI owns, several of them, numerous of them, have an affiliated, dedicated dirt track, quote unquote, attached. It may not be like right outside turn 3. But for example, if you go to Charlotte Motor Speedway, across the street is the Charlotte dirt track. If you go to Texas Motor Speedway, if you go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, if you go to Indianapolis Raceway Park, I believe they got a dirt track.
No.
No? Okay. I was wrong on that. I apologize. But there are several tracks all around this country that NASCAR has gone to or could go to where a dirt track is within a good golfer's shot of going to.
Nashville have a track?
Dirt track.
Yeah.
Nashville Fairgrounds and Nashville Superspeedway. You can't tell me that the best option was trucking in tons of dirt
Tons.
and covering a concrete track when you could have gone to a dedicated dirt track and saved you a boatload of money.
Not to mention the cleanup.
That's millions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen, in labor and equipment and dirt.
I've got a good segue for us to go into break here. Spinning off of that segment and that commentary. So, there's a little town in Ohio called New Weston, Ohio.
I've heard of it. There's a track there that I think I've heard of.
Yeah, it's the Dirt Field of Dreams, better known as Smoke's Palace of Speed, known as Eldora Speedway. That Smoke has plainly said he would be willing to host a cup race, and I have been on the grounds, and the facility is equipped enough to host a cup race.
Sure.
That would be a beautimous race.
Absolutely.
And to borrow
They've hosted NASCAR before. They hosted the Truck Series the first couple of years.
And to borrow a line from one Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, at the end of My Cousin Vinny, the defense rests.
Got an NHRA driver going to school. We'll talk about who and why. And then we're going to run some comparison pictures for you. If you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you'll be able to see it when we talk Formula One, because Haas F1's making changes, and so are tracks. All those details coming up as we have one more segment to go in this weekend's edition of the Championship Racing Network, and that's next.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. I'm Steve West. Got Matt Nicholson over there. Producer John Myers, not pictured. Thank you very much for joining us. One more segment this morning here and plenty to get to, so let's do it. No Superstar Racing Experience news for another week here, but we're keeping an eye on it, and when they have something, we'll let you know. So the National Hot Rod Association, and our resident driver would know this, they seek challenges all the time. If you don't think so, well, ask Matt, or, I don't know, check out a guy by the name of, who's that guy that we mentioned last segment that owns Eldora?
Sir Anthony Stewart
that's right.
of Columbus.
Yeah. Talk about finding new challenges all the time, right? Anyway, when a driver's used to straight line racing and they're thinking about making turns, it makes news. And this time around, it's reigning Rookie of the Year Camry Caruso, a girl who this guy right here predicted to the early part of the year was going to make some noise this year, and she's doing pretty good in the not the funny car, but the Pro Stock car division. But she's about to satisfy her own curiosity when she goes on September the 25th to Austin, Texas. Why? Well, she's going to take part in the Skip Barber one-day Formula Racing School at Circuit of the Americas. Why? If you're a 5-year-old. She answered, quote, "I'm always looking to find ways to become a better driver, and I think this unique perspective will be very helpful. Skip Barber Racing School's top of the line. I look forward to being put through the paces in a completely different style of racing. It's a school that lets the students get into a Formula 4 racer and has seen drivers move on and become successful in series like both Formula 1 and Indycar that have graduated from this particular class. We're talking about drivers like Formula 1's Sergio Perez. More on him in a moment. Indycar drivers Michael Andretti, Joseph Newgarden, and Colton Herta, NASCAR champion Joey Logano. Where have we heard that name before? And NHRA funny car driver Ron Capps has done it as well. And not only has that helped him become a champion in the NHRA, it's helped him do pretty good in the SRX series as well.
A little bit.
So, yeah. This ought to be interesting to see what this does for her. I'll be very curious to find out. And depending on how much it is, road trip? CRN field trip?
Have helmet will travel.
There you go. I like the idea. All right. Real quick, as we get to turn our attention over to the Formula One series, real quick, qualifying's done for Singapore tomorrow. And wow, Q1 and Q2 were full of surprises. Let's find out how it all came together and wrapped up.
Not a total surprise in Q3 for your pole winner. That is Carlos Sainz.
Not really, no. Ferrari has done well the past couple of weeks, and they've qualified well.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of like Haas F1, we'll detail that here in a moment or two, qualifying's one thing. Finishing the race is another. All right. Carlos Sainz gets the pole.
Yep. George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, and Liam Lawson round out the top 10.
If you had Liam Lawson getting a top 10 starting position, along with both Haas F1s, not just one, but both Haas F1s, again, you and I either need to go to Vegas or someplace that holds a lottery.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Pictures. And these are going to be kind of rapid fire for John, but I have faith in our producer to be able to handle this. Things a little bit different for the drivers in Singapore this season versus what they've dealt with in the past because there's construction nearby the Singapore street course, and it is a street course, not a dedicated road course. So course officials decided to err on the side of caution. They eliminated the 4 sharp corners from turns 15 through 20 that had been there before. Go ahead and put that picture up there, John, if you don't mind. This right here is from Formula One, and we thank them for this picture. If you look where those turns are labeled, going through turn number, like I said, 15 through 20, all of that right there has been eliminated because that's the area where construction is taking place, at least for this year. So turns 17 through 20 are eliminated. As he puts up the next picture, you'll be able to see the difference in the tracks from last year to this year on CRN Live on YouTube, again, courtesy of Formula1.com. You can tell the difference. What this should do is help the drivers keep the brakes in decent shape. It should help the tires last longer. Should also result in lower lap times than previously seen in Singapore because now you got a long straightaway versus the big kinks. Put that older picture back up real quick there, John, if you don't mind. For those of you that are on CRN Live on YouTube, you'll be able to, again, see that you've got one big straightaway versus a whole lot of kinks going on here. And, yeah, that should create much faster speeds. A team that might benefit most from those changes, Williams, who have shown a good car on the high-speed tracks, generally should help Haas F1 as well, because they've been having problems with overcooking the tires all year, mostly in the corners because they got so much downforce on that car. But it is kind of an unknown, whereas everyone's still trying to get a win out from under Red Bull. You see the difference right there between those two tracks, that big, long straightaway right there. And what did it end up doing? Surprisingly, it helped out Haas. They put both of the cars in the top 10 to start tomorrow. It helped out AlphaTauri, who have been backmarkers all year long. And it did help out Williams. But it hurt, surprisingly, Red Bull. Because neither of the drivers for Red Bull made Q3. So we'll have to start outside the top 10.
Yeah.
But again, we just said this 5 seconds ago. Well, a little more than that, but practically 5 seconds ago, we just said this. Qualifying's one thing.
Finishing is another.
Finishing is another. Can those tires last the course of the race? Short runs, qualifying, where you're only doing a couple of laps at a time, yeah, that's one thing. You can wear those tires out as much as you want because guess what? You're not putting them on in the race. Those are gone.
No.
So you can trash those tires.
Mm-hmm.
But now you got to go racing. And now you've got to figure out how to make that high-speed track right there, revised on CRN Live on YouTube as John has put it up there. You've got to be able to make that work long-term. I'd love to see Haas F1 put both of their drivers in the points. And you think I would love it. Gunther Steiner would be outside of his mind if both Hülkenberg and Magnussen placed in the top 10.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you want to talk about a team that would be thrilled with a top 10 finish from either one of their cars, much less both? AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri has been ridiculously overshadowed by their stablemates over at Red Bull all year long. 500 plus championship constructors points for Red Bull. How many for the sister operation AlphaTauri? 3. That kind of overshadowed. They would love to get a top 10 finish. And Williams, which seems to be starting to wake up here, at least with Alex Albon, gets to continue that because that's the track right there that they're going to run this year. It'll be interesting to watch this tomorrow morning.
Definitely will. I mean, with them qualifying well like they've done, I'm interested to see how it does, like you said, for Haas and AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Long term.
Yep. Through the course of the race. That's going to be the big question right there. How does it go through the course of the race? But we'll get back into reality here because basically since the beginning of the year, we've been calling Max Verstappen your 2023 F1 champion in waiting. How much of a advantage are we talking about? Well, let's put it this way. The official title watch has already begun. That's right. I got scenarios for you as to how Max Verstappen can win the title in short order. Heading into Singapore, Max Verstappen's got a 145-point lead over his teammate, Sergio Perez, with 8 races left this year. That means that Perez could, let's assume that he wins all those races, right, and claims the bonus right, for the fastest lap in each of those races, that 232 points are available. So, obviously, Max Verstappen does not have the title locked up yet. It also means that Verstappen cannot lock up the 2023 title in Singapore. Doesn't matter if he wins and get the bonus points and Sergio Perez finishes dead last. Still can't do it mathematically. But here's the thing. And I'm not necessarily doubting that this is a possibility. Should Verstappen win both Singapore and Japan and claim the bonus point for the fastest lap in both of those races, he actually could clinch the title with 6 races left to go in the year.
That is nuts. That's nuts.
If he's got a 180-point lead over Perez after Japan, he cannot be caught. Anything less, we go to Qatar, where then he would only need to lead Perez by 1 point more than what he has as a lead now, 146. Again, he's got a 145-point lead right now. So, yeah, it seems all of a given that if it doesn't happen in Japan, it will happen in Qatar. As for Red Bull itself, you want to talk nuts? Let's go nuts. Should Verstappen and Perez claim a 1-2 finish, and one of the two of them claim the bonus point for the fastest lap, and assume that Mercedes flops with only one of their 2 cars in the top 10, and that car would have to finish 10th, they could actually clinch the Constructors' Cup this weekend with 7 races left. Yeesh.
All you can say is,
Over at McLaren, they're having a little bit of fun in Formula One. This is their 60th anniversary. They've got a new look for Singapore and Japan, and they've called it Stealth Mode. I'll show it to you on CRN Live on YouTube. It's kind of an almost matte black look along the sides of the racer. It leaves the team's signature papaya orange up over the top of the nose cone and around the driver halo and covering the rear wing. It's a design between McLaren and their partner OKX. OKX. They co-designed it. The press release announced the new look showing both companies, quote, strive for excellence while embracing change and innovation. Okay. You say so. T-shirts are being sold through the official McLaren store on-site in Singapore and presumably on-site in Japan. Again, you can take a look at that. It's not a bad-looking car. You can obviously tell that they got a big Google Chrome sponsorship going on because that's obvious on all of their wheels. But there you go. That's the car. Alfa Romeo is about to be history, but the driver lineup for the 2023 Alfa Romeo team will remain the same in 2024 when it becomes Sauber F1 again. Valtteri Bottas is on a multi-year deal. We knew he was going to be back. He's going to be joined for a 3rd straight year by teammate Zhou Guanyu. Became the first Chinese-born F1 driver when he made the team for the 2022 season. So with that deal locked down, unless something unexpected happened, it leaves right now 3 seats that we know of available next year for 2024. AlphaTauri has yet to confirm the status of both of their cars next year. So we don't know either one. We presume Daniel Ricciardo, but then again, Red Bull's been known to change things at the drop of a hat. We don't know yet. Logan Sargent's on a 1-year deal over at Williams, and there doesn't appear to be any hurry right now to kind of work on an extension. And ESPN has actually gone so far as to report that Williams, while not ruling Sargent out for coming back next year, is also looking at options because he hasn't performed as well as he had at the beginning of the year when he opened some eyeballs, number one, and apparently he's been tearing up some equipment here over the last several races.
yeah.
And they're not happy about that.
No.
So we'll see. Those are the ones that are confirmed. Again, a lot can happen between now and the end of this year. Then there's Haas F1. They're not giving up on 2023 just yet, but they're waiting a long time to make the biggest update to their car. In fact, they're going to wait even a bit longer. They're going to unveil their biggest change at the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA next month. Haas F1 cars have shown speed, as we talked about it. Nico Hülkenberg has made Q3 several times this year, but the speed hasn't been able to really keep up from qualifying into racing. So we're going to show you a comparison of cars as they got into 2023 on CRN Live on YouTube. Both of these pictures are courtesy of Haas F1. The first one is Red Bull. Look at the side of the car. You see the side pod right there, the air intake right there just under the driver halo, right?
Where it says Oracle.
Where it says Oracle. And look at how it kind of shades off into the back of the car, right? Let's take a look at the Haas F1 car from the beginning of this year and understand that there's a lot of black there. Not exactly the same. Okay? To an untrained eye, you're like, looks really similar, right? Well, yeah, there's similarities, but when you're talking the downforce at 200 plus miles per hour, little changes make big differences on the track.
Massive.
Go ahead and put that
Absolutely
Red Bull
massive.
back up there if you don't mind. Because according to team principal Gunther Steiner, Haas F1 is going to adopt the Red Bull design direction for those side pods, which they call downwash. It's also going to change the aero actions of the racer, something that their technical partners over at Ferrari and perennial contenders at Mercedes realized early on this year and already switched to. You might remember Mercedes had those weird aero pods that really didn't have side pods at all.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? They switched to the Red Bull look. Haas F1's the last one to actually make this switch out of all the teams on the Formula One grid. Steiner said this week, quote, "The concept of the car will change. We're trying to go to that common downwash shape like everybody else has got. The radiators and stuff like this, we can't change them now. We just haven't got the time. Your chassis can change, but it wouldn't work out. Some of the stuff, obviously, we need to get close to Red Bull's look. That concept that we're running now asked for the side impact structure to be where it is. I think we got out whatever we could going into a downwash option. We just can't push it any further. We're going to finalize everything, and they'll have it set for when we go to COTA coming up next month." Avalanche Andretti has finalized their 2024 driver lineup. They've signed Norman Nato to team with Jake Dennis in the upcoming 10th season. Running for Nissan last year, Nato finished strong. He claimed a career-best second-place result in Rome, scored points in the season's final 6 races, put him in the top 10 in the final season standings, helped Nissan move up to 7th in team standings. He's got 33 starts in Formula E to his credit, does have a win, the season finale event in Berlin while racing for Venturi Racing a couple of years ago. He's got 2 career podiums. He's led 36 laps. 31-year-old veteran racer has experience in GP2, Formula 2, IMSA, and the World Endurance Challenge Series. So he goes to Avalanche Andretti. Once that seat got settled, another one opened up. Maserati announced they have parted ways with Eduardo Mortara. Mortara has been with the team since 2017, back when it was Venturi. He's performed well, 6 wins, 13 podiums, 2 poles. Got second place in the final driver standings in Season 7, but for Season 10, he's looking for different challenges. Statement from both the driver and the team would lead one to believe that it was Mortara's idea to split, likely seeking opportunities in some other series. He's climbed up through the Formula Feeder ladder. He ran Formula 3, GP2, Formula Renault. He also ran in the GP Asia Series. He's also run in Germany in the DTM Sports Car Series. He's run in some select endurance series races since all the way back in 2006 as well. And that is where we are led to believe that he is going to go. Somewhere in the World Endurance Challenge Series seems most likely. And now Maserati needs a driver if you're interested in battery-powered car racing.
No, not me.
John has to go to work, unfortunately, and Matt and I, fortunately, have to go to work, but it's a different kind. Matt and I are going to be jetting off to Bristol, taking some Cup Series action at the last great Coliseum. We'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll have all kinds of reports. We'll throw some stuff up on CRN Live on YouTube as well. Don't forget, if you have not subscribed to it yet, it's free. Please do so. And if you have subscribed to it, thank you. And tell a whole bunch of friends, and heck, tell a whole bunch of people that you don't know. We'd appreciate it. Y'all have a great week. We'll talk to you again next weekend. We will be live in studio once again, but without producer John. That's sad. He has work things to do. It's not like he's going to be sulking in a corner because we went to Bristol and he didn't. Y'all have a great week. We'll talk to you.
I'll be doing that too.
Y'all have a great week. We'll talk to you next weekend right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.